Here are tools I use to end my decision fatigue forever. Imagine it's a Friday night. The work week is over and it's finally the weekend. You sat on Netflix because you just want a good movie to relax to. But there are hundreds of movies available and 30 minutes later, you're still scrolling through the homepage and you've watched nothing. Now replace Netflix with your hobby or that side project you've wanted to work on or even your free time. There are so many options and so many things you've wanted to do, and yet there's no progress. And hey, let's say you actually start doing that one hobby, but then there's a little voice that kicks in and it says, oh, maybe should I have just watched Netflix instead? Should I be chilling right now? Should I be working? And you're in this constant frenzy of comparing what you're doing with other things, and you ultimately feel dissatisfied. Welcome to the paradox of choice. And it might be the exact reason why you're feeling stuck, stressed, and honestly just wasting your time. Let me explain the science behind this. There's this really cool study called the JAM study, which was an experiment conducted by 2 psychologists in the 2000s. Now, varieties of jam samples were given to the public. Initially, they gave 6 varieties of jams to the public to sample and try. And later, they gave them 24 varieties. So when there were only 6 varieties of jam samples, the sales were going. Like, they were making bang for their buck. But when there were 24 samples, you would think that with all the varieties of flavors like freaking watermelon jam and blueberry jam and whatnot, that they'd get even more sales. But actually, it turns out that the customers were 10 times less likely to buy the jam. Our society has conditioned us to believe that more is always better, that 1 million movies on Netflix is better than just 10, when the opposite is true. Anyways, point being, this study and various other studies have also concluded that too many options is worse than less, because we become paralyzed by too many choices and it's starting to affect our well-being. It's making us dissatisfied. The truth is that our brains have a certain mental bandwidth for the effort we have to make when it comes to decision making. And essentially, these decisions that we're meant to be making, the effort that we have to put in, is really meant for those bigger, more serious decisions, be it about health, your life, career, relationships, not for so many micro decisions that we're having to make today on a regular basis. From you wake up and you spend an hour deciding what clothes to wear, or when you go to the supermarket and there's like 100 different types of freaking salt, bro. Like, what? That's crazy. And except you'll actually stand there and be like, oh, should I choose this salt or this one? Despite the fact that it actually tastes the same. But despite the hundreds of options that you have, most likely you will end up choosing what is familiar to you. For example, with Netflix, after 30 minutes of scrolling through what to watch, you will just end up watching that one movie that you've probably seen like 100 times anyways. Our choices might not necessarily change that much, but when you're in front of these hundreds of options, your brain has to go through a filtering process to get to your final decision. I have to look at the menu and be like, oh wait, do I want chai latte? Do I want a caramel latte? Do I want a frappuccino? Do I want this, that? Before I'm like, oh well, I'll just have my cappuccino that I've been having every day straight for like the last 5 years. Unfortunately, this filtering process for your brain has serious consequences because it's depleting that mental bandwidth for decision making, and it ultimately results in decision fatigue, where you are likely to make worse decisions later on when you've spent all day burning through tiny decisions. And then the time finally comes when you have to make a serious decision, maybe one about self-control, one about choosing to do or not do a bad habit. But because you've depleted your mental bandwidth for effort, for decision making, now it's all finished and you might actually just make a trashy decision. Not because you're weak, because you lack self-control or willpower, but because you simply depleted your mind's ability to make decisions. So the question is, do we really need that many choices in life? We don't. Not as much as we have. Choosing is exhausting. Barack Obama knew this very well. He usually wears the same white shirt and just cycles through different colored suits. And when somebody was like, oh, Barack Obama, why is your fashion sense so basic? Like, you be wearing the same shit on rotation. And he was like, do you know how many decisions I have to make in a day? Do you think that it's more important for me to stand in front of the mirror for an hour than preventing a whole ass war? Maybe, but but no. So what's the solution to all of this? Long story short, it's essentialism, or maybe even minimalism. Point being, make less decisions in your day. Ask yourself, numero uno, what are decisions that I'm having to make that are stressing me out or that are taking so much time, more than they should? Numero due, what are steps I can take to make sure I don't have to spend as much time on these decisions? And that should fix your problem. For example, like last year, I would actually spend a lot of time thinking what I wanted to eat for brekkie. Be like, do I want avo and eggs? Do I want oats? Do I want wheat bix? And by the end of it all, I was kind of frustrated. And for the whole year straight, I literally had oats every morning. Unless my mother decided to make me, dosha and sambar, which tastes really bully, bro. My South Indian homies know what I mean. There are also other tools that I used. Most of us, when we write to-dos, we write like 5 or 10 things on our to-do list, all for us to literally get nothing done by the end of the day because you're so overwhelmed by it. So these days, I just write 2 major tasks that I want to get done in a day. No matter what else I have to do, my focus and energy goes to these 2 tasks throughout the day. And it helps reduce decision fatigue because I know exactly what I need to get done. You can even apply it to like other areas of your life. For example, I want to be reading 10 different books at the same time, but I've limited myself to just 2. One non-fiction book and a fiction book at the same time. Or in terms of hobbies, because I have so many, I try to focus on just 2 in a given week. So there's enough time to focus on each one so I can progress in it, but it's also not limiting myself to just like very few. So I don't have to make as many decisions because they're already pre-fixed for me. Decision fatigue hits the hardest when you have free time on your days off because there are so many things you have to do and you don't know what to do. To help me with this, I have what is called the 4 daily wins. On Notion, I wrote down the 4 most important priorities for me in a given day. And I have specific actions for each of them, and I check these off like they are habits. So throughout the day, if I'm ever feeling like I don't know what to do, I try to just divide my attention so that I'm ticking off each one of these. Sometimes checking off all of these actions can get overwhelming, which is why I designed a Notion system called the Life Tracker, which has helped me get my life together. I have systems where I'm checking off my habits, I'm logging my activity that I do hour by hour, and life feels like a game with this. I'm so motivated to do everything I want to do, and I've also gotten closer towards my goals. There's a free template that you can check out in the link in the description, as well as a premium template. I have defined exactly what I want to do when I wake up in the morning, when it's around lunchtime, and when it's evening. And these aren't things that I stick to so strictly, but I've just written it down in a way so that at the back of my mind, when these times of the day come, I kind of know what I'm meant to do and I don't have to think about it. These routines keep you grounded in life. They give you stability and peace. And of course, sometimes life happens. A lot of people, when they have all these routines, if someone or something ruins a part of their routine, they get pissed over it. But I've come to learn that you should just go with the flow of life. This is a question I found very valuable to be asking in almost every area of my life. For example, when I go shopping for clothes, as a woman I get tempted to be like, oh, well, this is very cute, it's kind of nice, maybe I'll wear it like on that one occasion and buy it and then regret it later. But now I'm like, I'm only gonna buy it if I love it. It's a hell yes or it's a no. Another tip I have for people who spend too much time deciding what clothes to wear is I have recently captured a picture of outfits that I love wearing and I've put it all into this notes app and then I can just pick and choose one. On days off and I'm having my precious free time, I am really conscious of what I do. I ask myself, do I really love this? And I try to fill my time up with activities that I really do love, such as going out for walks in nature, trying to spend time with people, and maybe like 1 or 2 hobbies. Because sometimes you might think that what passes as entertainment or having a good time is good for you, but in reality, you might not really be truly loving that moment. And a tip I have here is pre-decide your values, especially when you don't know what to do with your free time and you're like, should I spend time with my family or friends? Or instead, should I just work on a hobby? And with each choice that you make, you'll make a sacrifice. And that's what you'll have to determine when you define what are your values. We give so much of our precious time and energy to various people, including people who might bring negativity towards your life. And I make an effort to maximize the time that I spend with people who energize me, to people who I really love being around with, and I purposely reduce time with those who bring me down, or I even try to just distance myself from them. Sometimes you're stuck on a big freaking decision in life. It might be about a relationship, your career, or about big purchases that you want to make, and you go back and forth in your head because you're sitting on the fence. The other day, I literally felt like I just wanted to buy a MacBook Pro all of a sudden. Because my current MacBook Pro, which is 2015 edition, doesn't even run Microsoft Word. Anyway, I pulled out a table, a pros and cons list on Apple Notes, and I weighted each point. And in the end, I came to decide that I actually didn't want to buy it. Maybe in my head, I felt like there was a very strong, compelling reason to do so. But when I saw the numbers in front of me, when I saw it written out clearly in front of me, it seemed almost stupid to go and buy it. This is why such a pros and cons list or table is very useful, because when it's literally in front of you in words and numbers, it makes the whole picture so much more clear. That's all from me today. Subscribe and like for good luck. Take care and bye.